We have got a brand new video series for you guys where we are going to be wrapping up all of the team news and predicting lineups for all teams in the Premier League every single game week. Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan. I'm very excited to bring you this new video series that I have been working on in the background and I hope you guys are going to love it. Let's get going. Let me show you what I've got for you. So first of all, I should say that this video series, obviously, because it is brand new, I have been working on it all day and a little bit before. I don't know for sure if it's going to be perfect immediately. I want this video to be as useful as possible and as relevant as possible for you guys. So I really do appreciate any feedback, and we are going to try and develop this series over the next couple of weeks using your feedback to make sure you have got exactly what you need when it comes to figuring out who's going to be playing each week, what are the injury situations. So this is how we've laid it out currently, and we've got the predicted lineup based on my opinion and my research over the last day or two to see who we think is going to play, starting off with Arsenal. We're in alphabetical order, but if you want to do, if you want me to change it so it's based on fixture by fixture, we could do it that way as well. But Arsenal face Wolves at home, and I think this is what they are going to line up like. I would say that Martinelli is maybe a little rotation risk this week. He did play the full 90 minutes in the midweek Champions League fixture, and Calafiori also a bit of rotation risk as he is only just returning from injury. Nwaneri is also a player who is recently returned from injury, but Miles Lewis-Skelly and Saliba are doubtful for this week, so I expect both of these players to miss out. Of course, Saka, Jesus are out long term. Ben White is still out as well. There's no Tomiyasu either, but generally speaking, I think Arsenal are getting more players back and we should see them back to closer to full strength with the exception of Saka and Jesus, obviously. So this is what I'm predicting Arsenal to look like. The one change maybe is if Saliba is available for this game week, and I don't think he will be, then that will move either Timber to right back or Partey will remain at right back, and Timber might get a long-awaited rest because he has played so many minutes over the past couple of months. So that's Arsenal. Let's keep it moving. And we're going to do Aston Villa next. Like I say, we're in alphabetical order for now. And guys, do make sure you like this video if you like this format as well. With new series, it's often hard to get them off the ground. So any support on this video, comments, likes, massively appreciated. And do subscribe as well if you do want more stuff like this. But this is Aston Villa. This is what they're looking like. And I think in the midfield and forward positions, they are lacking a little bit of depth at the moment. I think Watkins is maybe rotation risk up front with Duran, given that Watkins has played the last two Premier League games and the Champions League midweek. I feel that Duran is maybe due some minutes at some point, so we are predicting Watkins to start, but there's a good chance that Duran does come in here instead. Looking through some of the other news around Aston Villa, we could see Digne rotated with Maatsen. Digne played midweek, but he didn't play last game week against Arsenal. Pau Torres is ruled out, as is Onana and Barkley, which means a midfield trio of Tielemans, Kamara and Rodgers behind the striker should be how Aston Villa look to line up. Interestingly, Buendia did play in the Champions League, so maybe there's a small chance of minutes for him, but I think Ramsey and Bailey should be the wingers for this week against West Ham. Okay, so I think the Bournemouth lineup is pretty straightforward because they do have so many injury problems, so it's going to be very, very similar, if not identical, to last game week when they beat Newcastle 4-1, but they face Forest at home this week, so another tough fixture for them. The closest player to returning is Tavernier, who could potentially make the matchday squad this week, but we're not 100% sure on that one. What we do know is Evanilson, Unal, Araujo, Senesi, Hill, they are all still out, and obviously Smith, Sinisterra and Scott have been longer-term absentees. They are back in individual training, but they're not going to be back quite yet, so should be pretty straightforward for the Bournemouth lineup this week. So this week I'm predicting that Brentford will go back to their 4 at the back formation. We do see that Brentford play 5 at the back against the tougher teams, and that is pretty consistent. And against Crystal Palace, I don't think Crystal Palace are one of the very top teams in the Premier League, so I'm expecting a return to the back 4, which would mean Schade comes in that left wing position, Wissa as the central striker, with Mbermo moving to that right wing position, Damsgaard behind the 3 strikers there as well. But not much much change in the defense other than, you know, that one defender dropping out. What we do know is despite the new signing of Coyote on loan from Fiorentina, he's not actually going to be available quite yet. He hasn't quite got his international clearance sorted, but we still do have a few players out for Brentford. De Silva, Pinnock, Nunes, Igor Thiago, Hickey, and Aya, interestingly, is back and available, but I don't think he will start quite yet. I think he's going to be in the squad, but I don't think he is going to start. So that's pretty good news there. And I know there's been some transfer news, well, rumours, I suppose, around Wissa and Mbermo. According to Thomas Frank, these guys are going to remain in the team. They are not for sale. They're not going anywhere, but we all know that sometimes things change when a significant offer comes in the transfer windows, but not affecting Brentford's lineup as far as we can see. These players are here to stay, according to the manager, and this is how he expects Brentford to line up away against Palace. Brighton, I expect to line up very similarly to how they did last week in this game against Everton, with a couple of small changes. I think Jorginho could come in the right wing position, but he is rotation risk with Minter, so it's going to be one of the two on the right wing. The other player who's maybe not so secure for Brighton is Dunk, because he has picked up an injury, unfortunately, but he was in training this week, so there is still a good chance that he could start for Brighton. If not, it's going to be Webster in that centre-back position. But the usual suspects of Joao Pedro and Mitoma, who I think are probably the most relevant FPL assets, should be starting this week. In terms of that injury news, like we said, Dunk, he has a muscle issue, but he has been in training. And Matt O'Reilly is also doubtful, as are Gruder and Hinchelwood, but they could be back. After that, we've got Milner, Kadioglu, Ferguson, Igor. Steele is going to be out for a month as well, but these players I don't think are necessarily first choice anyway, perhaps with the exception of Kadioglu. And Matt's Wifer as well. He is, there's no update on him, so we are expecting that he is still going to be out for Brighton. So Chelsea did have a couple of potential injury issues last game week. We knew about Enzo and Colwill. They obviously were unable to play in game week 22. But I think Enzo is going to come back into the starting 11 just because there's not too many midfield options right now. So I think he may be rushed back a little quicker than maybe some of the other players. Colwill, on the other hand, I think because Chalobah and Tosin had such a good game against Wolves on Monday, I think they'll probably keep their places, but there's a good chance that maybe Colwill comes in instead of Tosin and Chalobah moves to the right centre-back position. Really a big toss-up between Gusto and Reece James at right-back as well, but I think given James's injury history, he probably is at least rotation risk in that right-back position. Madueke I expect to start at right-wing, but there's a chance that Neto starts there as well. Sancho should return to the Chelsea first 11 as well this game week. And I know there's been some question marks around Sanchez and his goalkeeping ability maybe, but once again, Enzo Maresca has praised Sanchez and you know, given strong indication that Sanchez is going to continue in goal. I have heard rumours that maybe there is something a little bit political behind the scenes, which is why Sanchez seems undroppable, but I don't think there's any real worry for Sanchez owners about him getting dropped, and I'm predicting him to start once again. Fofana, Badiashile, Lavia, Mudryk, these guys are all going to be out this game week, but I think against Man City, it's going to be a bit of a tough game for Chelsea, so let's see how they get on. We're predicting one change for Crystal Palace this game week against Brentford. Last game week, Lerma was unavailable due to illness and Kamada played instead of him. But I think Lerma comes back into the team and plays in this Crystal Palace side that are winning matches at the moment. And hopefully they can continue that trend at home against Brentford in game week 23. We have got a few players ruled out. Decore and Chadi Riyad picked up injuries. They are going to be unavailable. And there's still no return yet for Ward, Wharton, and Franca, who needs a little bit more training before he can be considered in the starting 11. But relevant FPL assets, Eza, Mateta, and Sarr should all be starting in the front three forward positions. Munoz at right wing back here, of course. Mark Gay, if anyone has him, and of course Henderson is going to remain in goal. For Everton, we have received the news that McNeil is going to have surgery, so he's going to be out for even longer, which should really nail on and die as the left winger in this Everton team. Aside from that, Broja, Chamiti, Coleman are still out. Garner and Iroegbunam, however, are back in training, so we could see some minutes for them very soon. But no change here for this Everton team. I think the only potential change this week is we could see maybe Harrison instead of Lindstrom in the right wing position. But given that Everton put up a really good result, winning 3-2 against Spurs last week, I don't think there's going to be too many changes to the starting 11, which of course means O'Brien will continue as right back instead of Ashley Young. So the series may have changed and we may be changing the way we present our injury news. However, there's not too much change in the Fulham traditions of not very many injuries. So once again, Fulham, not too many injuries here. Tete and Nelson are still ruled out, but everyone else is available in the squad. However, I did have a bit of an issue when trying to pick out a Fulham team for this game against Manchester United. And a trend I have noticed is they're playing a sort of faux 5 at the back formation against some of the more difficult oppositions. They've played a few really easy games recently and they've gone for more of a 4 at the back. But this week, I think we could see 5 at the back, but in reality, it's more like Robinson at left wing and Bassey actually in the left back position. So I guess it's up for interpretation exactly how you consider this 5 at the back formation for Fulham, but there we go. But I do have a bit of an issue. I don't know if Diop is going to play or Robinson's just going to play left back in a flat back 4. There is a possibility of that, and that brings up all kinds of other issues. Who's going to play right wing? Wilson, Adama? Is Andreas going to play, or does Smith Rowe deserve some game time? Is there a chance that Smith Rowe comes in and plays instead of Iwobi? I think there are so many possibilities for the Fulham side this week. So really, I'm struggling a little bit with Fulham and trying to predict their lineup this week because I don't know what formation they're going to use. So this is my prediction right now. Raul Jimenez continuing up front, Robinson playing advanced on the left, Castagna, of course, starting, and if you have players like Iwobi or Smith Rowe, I would be at least a little bit worried, particularly as Iwobi. He has been playing all season, but he only managed 45 minutes after a tactics change last game week. So I wonder if we might see a slight change in the setup for Fulham this game week. But yeah, let me know what you think. Any Fulham fans in particular, how do you see Fulham lining up this week? Have I got things roughly right? I've tried my best this week, but hopefully I will get better at these predictions as each week goes on. And that takes me to another really, really tough team, which is Ipswich. And they are a team that seems to change 4-5 players every single game week. Yes, they don't really have a consistent lineup, so it's really difficult for me to judge. But another difficult game away against Liverpool this time, and yeah, I don't know who's going to be playing in defence. All I know is that O'Shea and Davies should be nailed on. I think Morsey and Kajuste should be in midfield, and Hutchinson should be playing on the right wing, might even play on the left wing, and Delap should be nailed on as well, with players like Schmodix, Chaplin and Ogbene unavailable. It does limit Ipswich's attacking options a little bit. I think Burns could come back in the right wing-back position as well, but honestly, I'm not totally sure about Ipswich, and it's really difficult because I try and find fan opinions on lineups, and particularly as we are, ahead of time for the Ipswich game, we've still got a little time before this game kicks off. The fans, and there are more limited fans for Ipswich compared to some of the other Premier League teams, not really posting too much on social media at the moment, so maybe next week as we develop this series, as I have more time to actually focus on the lineups rather than creating all of these graphics templates, I might be able to find some better resources for seeing fan predictions, because I tried my best here, but to be honest, I don't think too many people have Ipswich players in their FPL teams regardless. So there we go, guys. And let's take a little halftime break here to remind you guys to like the video and subscribe if you are new around here. And And like I say, any feedback on this video is massively appreciated. I don't consider what we have right now the finished product. Certainly think we can develop it a little bit more, and I'd love to get your opinions on what you would find helpful in these kind of videos. So still no Fatawu, Ndidi, Pereira and Hermanson for Leicester, and they have signed a new player, Koulibaly. I don't think he's going to be quite ready to start, but maybe makes the bench this week. Apparently he's trained well, but this is what I'm predicting for the Leicester lineup. We've got Stalazic remaining in goal with Hermanson being injured, Vardy up front, Mavididi, Ayew on the wings, and El Khanous in behind those guys. They play Spurs away from home, and yeah, it's probably going to be another difficult fixture for Leicester, who have been right out of form recently. Okay, so new news with Liverpool. Curtis Jones has picked up an injury. He is going to be unavailable for game week 23 against Ipswich. But aside from that, I think we're looking at a very similar lineup for Liverpool as we saw last game week. The only contentious position is probably the left back. Is it going to be Robertson? Is it going to be Tsimikas? I think Konate will start in the centre-back position. However, we have received the news this week that apparently Konate is playing with painkillers at the moment, and we find that he has to manage his workload a little bit. So he's not going to be able to play multiple games in a single calendar week, every single week. For now, and things will improve for Konate, but I think that is a big warning sign when we come to double game week next week. I appreciate that the second game in the double game week is almost 2 weeks after the first game in the double game week, but it's still something to consider that Konate may see himself rotated a little bit from time to time, and Kwanzaa may be coming in. But I do think Konate will play this game week. Ruled out, we also see Diogo Jota. He's going to be out for another week. Joe Gomez is also going to be out for a little while longer as well. But there's Liverpool. Cody Gakpo rested midweek. We're expecting him to start. Luis Diaz as the striker, although we could maybe see Darwin play as a striker, but I think Liverpool are going to stick with Gakpo left wing, Luis Diaz up front, and those two guys kind of interchanging in position. Szoboszlai is more nailed on now, of course, with the Jones injury as well. So, new injury news for Man City, and Doku and Diaz are both going to be out this game week. They've picked up new injuries, and I don't think there's any new returnees at all either, which probably means a similar situation to last game week with, Nunes, Mateus Nunes playing as right back. Could it be Rico Lewis coming in? Maybe. John Stones is now available, so he could come in as a centre-back, but only really because I don't think there's anyone else available. I don't know if Stones is ready to start and play full 90, given that he hasn't had any minutes, but there's not really any other options for Man City. In terms of that left wing position, it's going to be between Grealish and Savinho for this game week, but I'm going to back Grealish against Chelsea. I think it might make a little more sense tactically. However, everything else is very, very similar. Haaland, Foden, De Bruyne, Gvardiol, all these guys that you have in your FPL teams should be good to start this week. Of course, Edison should continue to start between the sticks as well. So lots of little injuries for Manchester United. Mazraoui was unavailable in the midweek Europa League fixture, and De Ligt and Yoro also picked up issues during that game. Lindelof is close to a return but might not be quite ready, and no return quite yet for Evans or Mount, which means we'll probably be looking at a lineup something like this. I'm between Garnacho and Ahmad for the wing position, but if Mazraoui is unavailable, that would mean Ahmad would have to drop back into the right wing back position. Dalot is secure there. Mainu and Agate seems to be the two centre-backs that United are rolling with. And Martinez should come back into the squad this week, into the starting 11, with Maguire in the centre ahead of goalkeeper Onana. Xerxes seems to be the preferred striker as well. So I think against Fulham, Bruno will play in these attacking areas once more. This is what I'm predicting for Manchester United for their fixture away against Fulham. Let me know what you think about this one, Man United fans. I think because there's so many injury doubts, it could be a little bit chaotic of where we see each player fit in within this Manchester United team. Not predicting any changes for Newcastle, although we know that Barnes, Wilson and Lascelles are ruled out. However, Nick Pope, for the first time, hasn't been completely ruled out in quite some time. So I still think Dubravka will remain in goal for this fixture, but Pope is getting incredibly close, and I think he could even make the bench. The one player I'm not sure about in this Newcastle side is Botman versus Fabian Schär in that right centre-back position. I think it's going to be one of the two. But Lewis Hall, Gordon, Isak, Jacob Murphy, all good to go once again for Newcastle for this great fixture away against Southampton. So Sangare is still out for Nottingham Forest, and Hudson-Odoi has also picked up a potential issue last week. So we could see Jota Silva come in as the left winger for Forest this week. The only other change maybe is Dominguez versus Yates. Not sure about that one. But your usual back four for Forest should keep their places. Sells in goal once again. Chris Wood leading the line. Alanga and Gibbs-White with plenty of chances in the attacking areas as well. Pretty similar stuff for Nottingham Forest this week, with only really Hudson-Odoi versus Jota Silva being a contentious one. Bournemouth away is the fixture. Can Forest continue their phenomenal form at the top of the table? Okay, so big news for Southampton that Tyler Dibling is going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks, so quite some time for the young star. Ramsdale is also a bit of a doubt this week, and we also see Sulemana, Stewart and Stevens and many other players who have been out forever for Southampton remaining out. I think in the forward positions, I'm between Onuachu and possibly Archer as the striker alongside Armstrong this week, but it should be, again, a pretty similar lineup to what we have been seeing recently. Ugachukwu could also come into midfield with some more difficult performances for Flynn Downs recently. We might see a little change in the midfield for Southampton's home game against Newcastle. So there's more bad news for Tottenham Hotspur as we see Solanke and Johnson ruled out for quite some time. Solanke is actually going to be out for 6 weeks, and I think Johnson is going to be a little bit sooner than that, maybe 3 or 4 weeks potentially. Romero and Van der Ven are still out, that is confirmed, and Spence, Sarr and Basuma are doubtful this week. So this is how we're predicting Spurs to line up this week, with Richarlison potentially coming in as the central striker. He did play in the midweek and his minutes have been building up over the past week or so, hopefully to get him more involved in this Spurs team amid their injury issues in the forward positions. Of course, removing Solanke and Johnson does give more merits to Maddison as a regular starter for Spurs. So, you know, people have been worried about Maddison's rotation risk, but when he plays, he seems to be a good little FPL pick. So maybe Maddison could be useful for you guys as a pick ahead of Spurs with some nice fixtures over the next few game weeks. So we're going to throw Maddison in the starting 11 once again. Kulusevski on the wing, and in defence, not really too much change here, but Davies as the left centre-back, maybe Gray as the left-back if Spence is unavailable, Dragusin, Pedro Porro and Kinski continuing in goal. So lots of players out for West Ham. Fulkrug, Antonio, these forward players not looking too good at the moment. Todibo is still out, and now Mavropanos is suspended. So that means that probably Sofal comes in as the right centre-back, although we could also see Wan-Bissaka play as the right centre-back, and Somerville maybe come in as the right wing-back. But that does depend on Somerville's injury situation. You know, both him, by the way, and Bowen have been back in training, but I don't think Bowen is going to be quite ready to start. There is a chance, but I think Bowen and Somerville could easily make the squad this week. So let's see what happens. But aside from that, it's going to be, once again, a lot of midfielders playing in attacking areas for West Ham this game week. So for Wolves, away against Arsenal, Mario Lemina is seeking a transfer away, and until the end of the January transfer window, he is not going to be playing any games for Wolves, apparently. Cunha, although, you know, there is potential for him to move as well in January, I think it's less likely for a start, but there's not going to be any change with him. He should continue to play, according to the manager, Vitor Pereira. No Kalajdzic, no Mascara, no Traore. These players have been out for absolutely ages, which should mean, again, a pretty similar lineup for Wolves this week against Arsenal, with Cunha on the left, Sarabia on the right, Strand Larsen through the middle, and we've got the likes of Aït-Nouri playing as left wing back as well, and that is Wolves for you. So one thing I should say about these videos, by the way, guys, is I'm hoping that they're really useful, not just for people playing FPL, but also if you're playing draft fantasy. This is going to be really useful for you guys to figure out what the injury news is and who you expect to play. I think it's going to be super useful for draft fantasy, and also, you know, if you just need to know who's going to be playing in each team for any given reason. And if you are playing draft fantasy or trying to just predict results from game, then maybe you're on sleeper fantasy, and it's certainly something I'm on, and I do this every week, predict the results from each game. And I'm going to tell you who I think is going to win each game in the Premier League this week. I think Bournemouth and Forest is going to be super close, but Brighton should be Everton. Liverpool and Newcastle should be pretty straightforward results for this week. Surely they are going to beat the newly promoted teams. Arsenal, I'm always going to back as an Arsenal fan. Man City versus Chelsea is tough though. I think City will win at this time. I'm going to go for a Crystal Palace Brentford draw, Spurs win, Aston Villa win, and I'm going to say Fulham to beat Manchester United as well. Of course, if you want to get involved in my predictor league and win big prizes, you can do so by clicking the link at the top of the description. They also have a great fantasy mode that I play all the time as well. I'm not just recommending Sleeper because they are a sponsor of the channel. I genuinely do love this app and use it all the time. It also has a lot of team news and stuff like that on there as well, so it's all very relevant to this video. So get involved, guys. Use what you've seen in this video to make some predictions, to select your draft teams, or, you know, find out more about some injury news on their app. Check it out now, like I say, using the link in the description. But like I say, let me know your thoughts on this video and how you would like to see it develop over the coming weeks, because I want this to be the best possible video for you guys, and I'm happy to work as hard as I need to make that happen. Do drop a like, of course, if you appreciate the effort, and do subscribe, because yeah, it take a little while to put this together today, but I'm happy. You know, I'm happy. Check out another video if you would like to. Plenty of other videos on the channel, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for a deadline stream for FPL Gameweek 23. See you later, mates. Bye bye.